This podcast was edited and uploaded by Uncle Geeb Productions. Hey guys, and welcome everyone to the Geeb and Tyson podcast. I'm your host, Uncle Geeb, and with me is host Street Media Gaming. We record this podcast live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, or anywhere you can find a podcast. You can also watch our video podcast over on youtube.com/dripgeeb. Tyson. I said Drip's name because I'm so used to saying this intro stuff, but we have Tyson as a special guest this week. I'm sorry, Tyson. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm good. You nailed the intro this week, man. Let's just give you the props for it.
Oh,
you nailed the intro, except for you got the wrong person, but it's fine.
You know why I got the wrong person? You know why? Because I also realized I left that little sign that said pre-show up. So I was getting rid of that pre-show sign on this, but it doesn't matter. Either way, good. Tyson, I apologize for not mentioning you at the beginning. Actually, I was practicing earlier. I was practicing saying your name in the title rather than Drip earlier. I was literally saying in the shower, and while I was shower lurking on myself.
You were saying my name in the shower?
I was.
Nice.
Steamy. But yes, guys, Drip is away this week. He's actually hanging on the chat when when he's available. He's a little busy tonight. So Tyson was so grateful. I said that one other time too, that Shibby was on. Tyson was so generous, and we are so grateful for Tyson to fill in for Drip tonight. So thank you, Tyson.
Yeah,
Tyson, once again, how are you doing, man? What's
Dude,
going on?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be here. It's I had my normal day job stuff, and then my buddy hit me up today, and he's like, "Yo, do you want to be on the Drip and G podcast?" And I was like, I do. So this is the highlight of my day, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We are glad to have you as well. I'm sure everyone, no one said specifically, we love Tyson. We love him so much. He should replace Drip. Oh, that's the way I'm starting to feel nowadays. I mean, like, Tyson, your beard. First off, the beard is just absolutely way better than Drip's. Like, light years above Drip's. And also, your YouTube content is banging. So, guys, if you're not already following Tyson on his socials, they're down below in the description. Go check them out. Podcast, audio, video, all that good stuff. They're down below. Go check them out.
Please do.
Indeed, everybody, and also Alex in the chat, Alex Switch Corner, friend of the pod, is making fun of us because he said it's gonna say pre-show for sure. Boom, he says after, because I definitely did make that mistake because we're a week away. Last week we didn't have an episode, so I'm a little rusty this week. Also, technical difficulties right before we start the recording on this episode because we're actually not technically recording. I need to figure that out. How we're gonna get this up there on the internet, because you can download streams off YouTube. I'm sure you know that as a streamer and YouTuber. However, you're probably also aware it takes 14 million hours to do so. Yes. So like I might have no other choice this week. But Tyson, we have a nice podcast of episode topics for this week. Tyson, there is I'm gonna say your name 45,000 times. Tyson.
Hey,
Tyson.
I'm here.
Tyson, Pokemon, dude. Pokemon has happened. But before we get to the Pokemon though, a couple things dropped today, dude. Mm-hmm. The first thing being first, Mario Kart Wave 4 DLC. Do you even care about that?
Do I care about it?
Yeah, you.
No. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is fine. I don't play it a whole ton anymore. We did, the wife and I with my youngest just played it a couple nights ago, actually sitting here in my bedroom, and it was fun. I mean, Mario Kart's always a good time when you play it, but it's getting me to play it is the problem. And honestly, for me, like, these new DLCs really don't really draw me in. But for people that are into it, they're dope, right?
Yeah.
So.
For sure. I mean, I'm interested. I don't have the tracks pulled up. Did you get it by chance? To pull those up? Did you?
Yeah. Do you want me to read off the individual tracks?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so this is actually via NintendoLife.com. I won't read the whole article, but basically we've got Singapore Speedway, Bangkok Rush, Amsterdam Drift for Mario Kart Tour. There's DK Summit for Mario Kart Wii, Riverside Park for Mario Kart Super Circuit, Mario Circuit for Mario Kart DS, and Waluigi Stadium from Mario Kart Double Dash, which is cool. Double Dash was sick.
I've heard.
So that's exciting for me because I like Double Dash a lot. It's probably the best Mario Kart game.
Is that on the Wii?
It was on the GameCube.
GameCube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was gonna say I have to pick that one up, but I can't.
Everything on the GameCube
I don't have
was
a Wii.
fire.
I have a Wii U. I believe it.
Is it just the Wii that you can play GameCube games on, or can you do it on the Wii U as well?
Some Wiis. Some Wiis are GameCube compatible. The later Wiis were not GameCube compatible.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
The easiest way you can tell if your Wii is GameCube compatible is if your Wii has that flap up door that has the GameCube ports.
Oh, did they do away with that later on?
Yeah. So it looks like there's that door is seemingly there, but it's like the plastic doesn't open. It's like solid plastic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be able to tell from the surface just by looking at it. You'd have to like try to open up a door that wouldn't be there or would be there. And that's the easiest way to tell.
I'll have to check my Wii and see because that'd be pretty dope.
You got little GameCube ports on there.
Yeah, I knew the old ones had GameCube ports, but I didn't know that they did away with it. You just taught me something today. That's bonkers.
They did. And here's the funny thing. There's like physical things inside the Wii that allowed it to read that smaller disc, and they got those. Or I don't think actually there's no smaller. Don't what I just said. Erase that from your mind. There is a reason why the newer Wiis were not able to read the disc. And there's actually a modification you can do on if you have one of those Wiis that are not compatible for this GameCube disc. You're actually, there's a way, I don't know how, but there's a modification you can do to make those old Wiis read the disc. There's like there's a mod you can do, and I think it's like physical. There's like a physical restriction.
I think I've seen something about that, and I think it's pretty easy. Like most people can do it. I think I could be wrong.
I mean, I wouldn't say most people, but someone who is handy with some screwdrivers and maybe some plastic modification. I'm not sure exactly what has to happen, but anyway, we got lots to talk about. That's not this stuff. Oh, but quickly, Metroid Fusion, not Prime. Metroid Fusion. Just minutes ago, we had a wonderful listener, Brandon, brought it up in the chat that March 9th we're getting Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance for NSO. That's exciting.
Was it March 9th?
It was.
Okay, I believe that's the date for Mario Kart DLC as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Next week, that's
big drops.
Friday. Next Friday, I think, is when they're dropping that stuff.
That's actually really exciting, especially considering the Nintendo Switch's age. So we got a lot to be excited about. That's really cool, actually.
Indeed. Speaking of age, things that didn't age well.
Tyson.
No. You age beautiful. Pokemon. Sorry. I got to do it to you. I had to give that segue. That's a segue I had to do. Specifically, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now we all can agree that one was spoiled milk when it dropped.
Ooh.
And they're trying to reverse the souring agents inside the spoiled milk as we speak, and they put out patch 1.2. This is the second patch, hence the 0.2. At Tyson, I got to be honest with you, I don't know a ton about it. I did read through it when it happened. This is not the main news of the Pokemon, but I wanted to address this at the very beginning. But I can say this about it. It's an incredibly long list of patches. Yeah. And the funny thing about the long list of patches is
you don't notice much, right?
Is that well, no. There's a ton happening in that. There's so much things that they're fixing. It doesn't even scratch the surface of what's wrong with the game in the first place. Now, that's not saying the patch is pointless. There's plenty of good things happening in that patch. Unfortunately, though, there's so much more that needs to be addressed. Including performance, that it's just that makes it look insignificant, but it's not. It's a huge patch.
Yeah, no, it's a real big patch. There's a lot there. I will say a lot of the stuff they patched had a lot to do with kind of the hardcore Pokemon guy like myself. Like, so there's a lot of competitive patches in there. There's a lot of bug fixes for like the way that battles work, and we can get into those details if you'd like. But I think, they're really, really hyper. If you guys watch the presents, one of the things they're hyper focused on is their like their worlds competition and VGC and stuff. And so I think their first priority was making sure that as many competitive bugs as they could fix up front got fixed, and that's what it seemed like to me. But there's a lot of other things in there. They acknowledged some things like, when you're in a battle, like in a city, like NPCs would walk through your battle and stuff. They fixed that supposedly, and for me, like, you don't go in the cities much anymore after you beat the game, so you don't really notice it now that you're out in the field playing the game. But that is something that they say they patched. So there's some stuff in there. I don't know how far into the details you want to get, but there's quite a bit. I mean, it's a laundry list.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if you want, you say what you want about it, dude. This is the floor is yours. Whatever you want to talk about this patch, anything notable that you find, feel free to discuss.
So let me just pull up. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, I know. I know you're a big you're competitive. So what are in competitive are they fixing that's really awesome?
So one of the biggest ones that they fixed for competitive was there's two brand new Pokemon called Dondozo and Tatsugiri. And the gimmick between those two is that when they're both on the field in double VGC style battles, because of their abilities, Tatsugiri will actually go into Dondozo's mouth. And it has a move called Order Up. Dondozo does. One of the things that they fixed that people initially thought that wasn't a bug, that was when Dondozo used Order Up, he gets a number of stat buffs. I won't go into all of it. I'll try and keep it pared down for time. But he gets a number of stat buffs when he uses Order Up. And there's a move called Protect in the game. And so when a Pokemon on the other side of the field uses Protect, it does exactly what it says it's going to do. It protects your Pokemon when you use that from any move that is used against it. So it's basically a free defensive turn from any damage or any status effects. And what would happen when you used Order Up on a protecting Pokemon, Dondozo would still get the stat buffs associated with the move Order Up. So Order Up does both damage, but it also provides stat buffs. And so, like I said, when a Pokemon on the other side of the field uses Protect, Dondozo, even though it wasn't doing any damage, because the move wasn't landing due to Protect, it would still get those stat buffs. And they that was huge. It made Dondozo completely broken. And they patched that out. That apparently wasn't supposed to. A lot of VGC players thought that was something that was supposed to be in the game, and it ends up they patched it out. So it's kind of good news because it nerfs Dondozo a little bit. He's a little bit of a powerhouse in the game, but that's one of the really, really big ones. But there's a ton here, man. It's such a big list.
Yeah, I mean, for free, whatever you feel notable about it. Because I would bring stuff up. However, I'm not you. You're the Poke expert here, so you feel free to bring up whatever you want to bring up here that you feel notable.
One of the first other patch notes that I'm kind of looking at, it's literally the first one on the list of patch notes that I'm currently looking at, and it says type matchups against Pokemon that have fainted will no longer appear when selecting a move or target during double battles. So a lot of this stuff is VGC double style battles centric because that's the main competitive format. But basically what that means, and I was watching regional championships one weekend because that's my football. And one weekend I was watching regional championships, and what I was noticing was, so in VGC style battles, competitive style battles, there's two Pokemon on either side of the field. So there's 4 total Pokemon on the field. And what that's saying is when the opposing one of the opposing 2 Pokemon gets knocked out, you would still see under your attacks, when there's opposing Pokemon on the field, you'll see which of your moves are super effective and not very effective against it, right? Yeah. So you would still see that even though the Pokemon on the other side of the field was fainted or knocked out. So even if there's one Pokemon on the side of the field, you would still see that your moves are super effective against it. And there was some people that were having difficulty with that because they thought that it meant, maybe that their moves were super effective against the Pokemon that wasn't fainted. So it led to some confusion and some brokenness in the competitive system. So anyway, they fixed that. So that's a really, really big one for competitive. So we'll, to kind of get away from the battling stuff because there's so much there. And I can't remember all of this stuff because there's just so many. But they've one of the things they patched was, I didn't really have a problem with this. I didn't see this too much. I did have 1 or 2 game crashes of my main playthrough of Scarlet and Violet, but one of the other things they patched was they've addressed an issue that made the game prone to forcibly closing at certain locations. So they fixed it by basically putting less Pokemon that spawn in the area and people displayed in the area. So they kind of reduced or capped the amount of spawns to kind of help with that. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, do you have anything you want to add to that, Geeb?
Yeah, well, I noticed that I was talking to different people playing Pokemon recently on Twitch and just, privately. Not too many people have noticed a difference. Yeah. With Pokemon spawns. Even though they said they reduced it. So I'm sure they're talking about specific areas. One of them I can think of is that grassy area, that muddy grassy area. I can't think of it. It's like bamboo everywhere, I think. Yeah. I don't know what that's called, but that area in particular was always like below 15 frames per second.
The lake too.
Ridiculous.
The lake, the northwestern side of the map, Casa Roya Lake. That was a really notable. So there might be less spawns there because that was a really notable laggy area too. So I can imagine that was one of the places that was fixed.
I pulled my game up recently, and I did actually try. By the way, I should be asked in the chat, when is this out? It is currently out.
It's
right
out.
Now. You can download it. I tried the lake myself, and I can confirm that like it's actually
it runs a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean it's not again. It's for what it is. The product is running much better than what it was around there. I did want to talk about a little bit about terror raids though, because there's a ton of terror raid stuff that's going on. I noted. Yeah. Oh, sure. I
was going to say, can I add one more thing? Because so aside from all of the bug fixes and because I want to get into some of the positive stuff they've done too. So of course they fixed the bug fixes. They fixed the bugs that were happening. But one of the real cool things that they actually added that should have been in the game from the beginning, because it's been functional in every other Pokemon game up until this point though, was proper box and storage functionality. So they've just added the ability to more seamlessly operate the way that you move your Pokemon, give them items and that kind of thing in your boxes. And it seems like such a small thing, but for a Pokemon player, it's huge. And they finally brought it because it was something that was absent. When you played Pokemon for so many generations, you're so used to how the boxes control when you're storing and moving and swapping your Pokemon and giving them items and checking their stats.
Yes.
You expect it to work a certain way. And it didn't work in Scarlet and Violet up until now. And so now I'm happy to say that they've implemented those changes and the boxes work appropriately. And it's so nice now. But I just wanted to add that real quick as kind of a positive. They added proper box and storage functionality. So
silly that it wasn't there from the beginning though.
Yes, absolutely.
Excuse me. I want to talk about terror raids now, because that's something I experienced firsthand. Plenty of issues, and I bet you this isn't a third of the issues that are wrong with terror raids. But there's a ton of different issues going on. I'll just start from the top. We might have different lists, Tyson's, but type matchups against Pokemon that have fainted will no longer appear in the section. While selecting a move or targeting double battles.
Yep, and that's for double battles. Yep.
Yeah, we fixed a bug with Zoroark, because specifically that Pokemon, he changes. I believe he changes to like a Ditto.
He disguises, almost like a Ditto. He just disguises himself, so he doesn't get the stats and the moves of the opposing Pokemon. He just takes like upon the look. Yeah.
That a Terrasilize was disguised as another Pokemon via its illusion ability. Could have been identified as a Zoroark by using the check target option. Okay, there's a little text bug.
So the whole point, and what that did was so what it's saying is that it like the whole point of having Zoroark disguised is so that you think that it's the Pokemon that it's disguised as and not Zoroark. It's the element of surprise. And so fixing this bug, well, having this bug in the first place unchecked and unfixed took away your element of surprise if your opponent knew that it was a Zoroark. The whole point of using Zoroark is because it's disguised, and so that's an absolute good fix. Again, it should have functioned properly in the first place, but it's one of the better fixes too.
Yeah, I'm reading the rest of the list here. There's another one about the Donzo and Tatsugiri, which I think you talked about already.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not seeing anything like some of the issues I experienced with terror raid battles. Like, I just feel like it's not necessarily a bug, but like they didn't think this through all the way. And you know what I'm talking about, because we've played as multiplayer together. It's a different experience, terror raid battles, when you're doing it by yourself or multiplayer. It's actually much harder to beat a terror raid with a group of people, which is crazy, because you'd think, oh, we can type bet, we can match up better because it's not random anymore. We can kind of choose our Pokemon to really beat this guy out. The problem is the timer, and I don't see any fixes with that timer.
Well, I don't think that's a bug though. I would not expect him to fix that timer. Honestly, and the funny thing, I'm so glad actually that you bring that up.
So broken.
Well, I like it's kind of broken, but I understand why they did it, because if somebody just can't play online. Or whatever, like let's say, it's an 8-year-old kid with parental controls on their Switch. I'm sure that they want to nerf it for a kid, right? So that the kid has a better chance to soloing these raids. But to kind of describe for the listeners and the viewers here, what basically happens when you're soloing a raid offline versus playing online is when you're playing with friends, and it's really not even online, it's locally. So if you're playing with friends that are not NPCs in these terror raids, when you're playing with real people, when they get knocked out by the opposing Pokemon that you're raiding, the timer goes down quicker, and it's a punishment for fainting, right? So it's built into the game, and it's the way that it should be. It's not a bug. But what Geeb is saying is that when you're soloing one of these raids and you're playing with NPCs, so not real people, those NPCs can faint all day, and you don't get punished. You don't get punished for them fainting. The timer doesn't deplete faster. And so honestly, for me, my preferred way to raid is solo because it actually makes it easier. It does make it easier, but I would hate to see that go away for that reason, because I can grind raids for the drops, and then I do think that it's maybe a little bit of like a handicap for like maybe an 8-year-old kid, like I said, that's got parental controls on their Switch or something. That's what I would assume.
I just find it silly too. I'm going to get off this in a second because we don't need to spend too much time in terror raids, but I just also find it silly in terror raids where like the text bubbles are taking your time up. And if a Pokemon has move sets where it has to tell you about what's going on, and it's like there's a bubble, there's another bubble, they're rapid fire bubbles, and it's a Pokemon. You can set yourself up to where okay, I'm gonna beat this guy no problem, and he just does these moves where here's another text bubble, The game the timer does not pause for those text bubbles. So the more text bubble moves your opponent has, the least of a chance you're gonna beat him.
That is an issue.
Pokemon being a strategy game, that should be a number one focus for them. It's like this takes the strategy away. It's like I can strategize all I want, but there's no way to beat this guy with strategy when you got your friend. You can't strategize against text bubbles.
I mean, I don't know. Like I haven't. So like now again, like I'm an experienced player, and so I understand how like a newcomer to the series or the franchise might struggle with it. I have not come across a raid yet that I can't solo. You just have to like there has not been a single raid that I haven't been able to solo.
It's okay. I want to clarify. It's not that I can't do it necessarily.
It's just not the point though. It's not the point of the raid, right? The whole point of the raid is to have a multiplayer cooperative experience, right? Is what I think you're saying.
Basically. And
it defeats the purpose, right?
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
the strategy's still there. So, and I was more trying to get to the point to what you're saying about strategy. Like strategizing's still there, because especially if you want to solo some of these harder raids, especially like Charizard, the 7-star Charizard raids were pretty difficult to figure out how to solo from the get-go. Greninja was pretty tough until you figured out how to solo it. And we'll get into this too, and this is kind of a spoiler for something that we're going to talk about in a second. But the 2 new Paradox Pokemon that were announced in 5-star raids were actually pretty, and they're only 5 stars. And currently the biggest raids that we have are 7 stars, and those Pokemon in 7-star raids are at level 90, I believe, and 5-star raids are 75. And these new Pokemon that they released with this update, at 5-star level 75 were actually pretty difficult. I failed them both first try. And so there's a lot of strategy there still. And so I just to push back a little bit on that, it does require strategy, but I understand and appreciate what you're saying about the text bubbles, because it is a real issue. Like they need to find a way to make that real time to where the text bubbles overlay the rest of the experience, so they're not taking up your time.
Well, I think I promise we're not going to start this argument, but they did figure out a way in a game that came out 9 months prior called Pokemon Legends Arceus. And that game got everything right about the battle system in terms of how they should operate, specifically text bubbles.
We're going to fight. I'm fine.
You not to mention the bug where like cameras get zoomed in when bigger Pokemon, so you're looking at the chest and stomach of Pokemon. Where at Pokemon Arceus they fix that problem where you can move the camera with the stick. And it's like, why didn't they implement it? There's so many things about this game. I love it so much. But yet there's so many broken things about it. We could talk about patch notes and potential patches in the future all night long. The big notable thing is they did not address performance in a significant way in this update.
On this update, for sure.
So that's
I would agree.
We're 4 more months into the game and still no real performance update. Who knows we're getting one.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Pokemon Presents. Guys, before we go on with Pokemon Presents, I just want to say that this is not entirely about Pokemon. I do realize the thumbnail I made for this episode was Switch 2. We will get to that in a minute, everyone. Hold your horses. Hold your Pokemon. We'll get there in a second. But what's up a little bit more about Pokemon, because we have Tyson here. We got to talk about Pokemon with Tyson.
You got to talk about Pokemon when I'm here.
The Pokemon Presents happened, and a couple of notable things happened. The first one being, that I'm going to bring up, is Pokemon Home support. How do you feel about that, Tyson?
So, it's not here yet. So it didn't, they announced
it.
Yeah, they announced that but they've already announced it, so we knew it. And one of the things that I guess apparently they previously announced that we would be getting it early 2023. So they've never given us a hard date, and they said the same thing in this presents too. But for some reason, I actually expected that they would shadow drop compatibility. And I was in another very popular Pokemon streamers chat on Twitch right after the presents, getting their thoughts on how we didn't get Pokemon Home compatibility for Scarlet and Violet shadow dropped. And they informed me, like, they announced this months ago. And it's like, dang, man, I got my ear to the ground pretty good with the Pokemon stuff. How did I miss that? So apparently they did announce it though, that it was early 2023. But I mean, it's early 2023. I mean, we're almost to Q1 to Q1 2023. And the honest truth is I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that the first Pokemon Presents, well, not the first Pokemon Presents, but Pokemon Day 2022, or not 2022, it would have been whenever Sword and Shield were brand new. So 2019, I think. 2019. Pokemon Day 2019. I believe, I could be wrong, someone correct me if you're out there, but I do believe Pokemon Day 2019, we got Pokemon Home shadow dropped. I'm happy to be proven wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's what happened later that day. So I was kind of expecting that we would get Pokemon Home shadow drop directly after this presents. So to answer your question, I'm incredibly disappointed. I'm happy that Pokemon Home is coming out, but that was actually what I was looking forward to most as a Pokemon fan for Pokemon Day, because I knew that we would get DLC. That was a given. I knew that we would get it. But what I was looking for was the ability to transfer my old Pokemon into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and those Pokemon that are able to come over from Legends Arceus into Scarlet and Violet using Pokemon Home. And we didn't get it. We didn't even get a date. So I'm pretty disappointed, to be honest. Still salty.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Sorry.
No. You're good. I'm saying that so we're not moving on. You said what needs to be said on that. The next thing I want to bring up regarding the presents is the DLC. Is like you just kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
But is there anything before I get to that? Is there anything you want to talk about the presents? Because we're done talking about the presents after DLC.
So DLC is actually really exciting. I mean, I expected that they would do the same thing that they did with Sword and Shield and release it in 2 parts. Yeah. To talk about it briefly, because we have other things to talk about, of course. One of the things that I'm actually really excited about is to hear that the release schedules for it are fall and winter. And there's a lot of people out there that are actually complaining about those release schedules. And it's like, hey, listen, like, you just complained that we got, that we got BDSP, Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet all back to back, right? Like, how about let them have the time to properly develop these DLCs so that we hopefully get a finished product upon release. So I'm actually perfectly okay with this wait. I think it's good. Hopefully it means that they've learned their lesson from Scarlet and Violet and that they're going to polish these up a little bit, because overall, the DLCs, part 1 of the DLC is called the Teal Mask. And there's a new legendary in that game called Ogre Pond that wears this mask. It looks great, guys. It looks really, really cool. There's 3 new, I believe they're legendaries. One's called Monkey Dory. There's Pheasantipity. There's Monkey Dory, Pheasantipity. And let me see if I can scroll down and find the other one. They
are really running dry with these names, dude.
But the lore behind them is so good. They're based on Japanese legends. So without
we're gonna have to have you back one day. The episode is gonna be Pokemon lore explained.
Let's do it. Yeah, the lore is good. The lore behind them is good. So anyway, they're so good. But
on the surface, not knowing the lore, those names suck.
Oh, it's I just remembered. It's Monkey Dory, so like hunky dory, right? There's Pheasantipity, so serendipity, and then there's Okidogi, and he's a big muscular dog. And I like, a lot of people think they look dumb, but I'm like, dude, these things are pretty lit. Like, I'm not looking
at look. The name itself.
I think they're great. I think they're great. But
I thought they look cool. I saw them. I believe they look pretty cool.
But the names also point to what they're kind of based off of in real life. So like, after you kind of do a little bit of research into what they're based off of, like the Japanese folklore and stuff.
You mean the episode that we're going to release coming up here at some point with you, right?
Let's do it. Yeah.
We'll
come back and watch the episode.
Pokemon lore explained.
Let's do it. And I'm not the best Pokemon lore guy, but I can at least get into the basics. But it's good. Long story short, it's based on the Japanese like fairy tale Momotaro. So do your research on that, and we can talk about it next podcast. But no, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be good. So that's part 1 of the
And when is that releasing?
Fall of this year is when they've said. So we don't have an official date, but fall. You probably expect September, October, I would imagine.
Did people want Shadow dropped? Like, I don't understand what people are complaining about. Like, that seems pretty reasonable.
I think what people were expecting was spring, summer, if I'm being honest. I think
essentially not Shadow drop, but I mean, like, they want it tomorrow, which is like the game just freaking came out.
But the thing that irks me the most about that is and you guys all know me as the biggest Pokemon apologist on the planet. Like, look, man, like, to be honest, Scarlet Violet had a ton of problems and still do. And it's so funny to see people complain about the problems that Scarlet Violet had at launch and then complain that the DLC isn't coming out soon enough. It's like, guys, you can't have it both ways. So just be happy that you're getting it, and hopefully it comes out polished and looks good. And I think it will for the most part. I doubt that there's going to be many problems with the DLC, and I think that's why I think so, because so the truth is and I have
the game itself is unpolished. How would you expect the DLC to be polished?
Because I think so. I look back to Sword and Shield DLC to kind of bolster my argument there. And we've had private conversations about this, but just to enlighten chat a little bit, I am very vocal about Sword and Shield actually being some of the best Pokemon games since some of the more original generations, Gen 5, right? Gen 5 is my favorite gen. I'm a little biased, but for battling and content, like, the DLC for Sword and Shield actually really did do a lot to complete those games, really made them whole. And it's unfortunate that DLC does that and you got to pay $30 additional to get a whole game. But the truth is they just did that. And so I'm looking to Sword and Shield for an example and a model of how they've done games on the Switch so far. And I do now. Look, and this is me coming without my rose-colored glasses on, without my Pokemon goggles on. I don't have Pokemon goggles when it comes to Scarlet and Violet. They have major issues, and even I'm a little bit disappointed with them. I do think that overall these DLCs are going to be good and they're going to be complete, because that's the whole point of them.
But not polished.
I think they'll be polished. I really do. I really do. There's going to be a lot there.
That's a big task to have that DLC be polished when the game itself to this point in March 2nd of 2023 is still not polished 4 months after release day.
There's going to have to be
5 months. 5 months.
There's going to have to be. So, and this kind of gets into our previous conversation too about Scarlet and Violet. We've talked, I don't know if we talked about it on a podcast, but we've certainly had private conversations about it. But one of the things that I don't hear a lot of people talk about when they complain about Scarlet and Violet, and this isn't me defending, the Pokemon company or whatever. It's just me stating the facts of the matter. The truth is that they knew that these games were not finished upon launch. And I know that because on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's website, before the first bug patch that they released, not 1.2, but the first one that they released, it was before they ever announced any kind of bug fixes. They put right on the Scarlet and Violet website that there would be many future updates for these games, which they've not really done a whole ton, but they got right out in front of it. They kind of posted it out of the way, hoping not too many people would see it, but they did get right out in front of it. Hey, we know these games are broken, and that's the reasons why are a conversation I think for another podcast. But they knew, and so the thing is I don't know how many updates for the games that we get before DLC. I imagine they're going to be sparse. We're not going to get very many before the DLC, but when the first DLC goes to drop, they have to update the base game. The base game has to be updated for the DLC, and I expect there's going to be a ton of fixes in the base game right before you download that first DLC. So yeah, I do think we're going to see a lot of polish, and then we'll save this, but this kind of goes into our conversation that's going to happen after Pokemon, the real topic of this podcast, but it does go into that. Let me make one more point about part 2. Part 2 of the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero Indigo Disc is what part 2 is called. There's a lot there, guys. There's the Pokemon, the legendary Pokemon that was hinted at in the Scarlet and Violet book called Terrapagos. It's basically the Pokemon responsible for the terrestrial phenomenon in the Paldea region. It's a giant turtle dragon Pokemon that looks really amazing. And if you look at the map of Paldea, it almost looks like the map of Paldea could be a giant turtle. Look at Terrapagos and look at Paldea. It's amazing. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, there's a lot there. I won't go too far into it, but I'm really excited for DLC. There's a ton there. Apparently, the story behind part 2 is that there's a new academy that we'll be traveling to that's underwater that really focuses on battles. And
that's pretty neat.
What's that?
That sounds pretty neat.
I think there's a lot there, man. I think these games are really going to complete. It's unfortunate, but I do think these games are going to complete. And when I say complete, I mean actually complete. They're going to make Scarlet and Violet whole. And it's unfortunate that they didn't release whole, but I do expect that these DLCs will make them whole. So anyway, that's my rant.
Before we move on, because everyone's waiting for the Switch 2 stuff, but
yes,
I do want to say this, and it's not going to be good. One thing we didn't mention is the price of the DLC.
Whew.
I'm just going to say it as it is. It is a 35 US American dollars, 35 US American dollars per game for the DLC. If you add that as a total, that is the same. If you want to buy DLC for both your copies of your game,
if
you bought both, you're looking at as much as Tears of the Kingdom has cost.
Yes,
$70, $35 each for the DLC. Even on its own, $35. The most expensive DLC that I can recall, especially in recent history, would be Monster Hunter Rise, the Sunbreak DLC. That was $40. That game, it was essentially a new game. That was a new game that they decided to put on as an add-on to their old game. So like, there's a lot to live up for here. I mean, Tyson, what was the last DLC cost? 25, I believe.
I think it was 30. I think it was 30. It was expensive. It was up there. I'm pretty sure it was 30. So, and you know, like, to be honest, Geeb, like, for the most part, when you have me on the podcast to talk about Pokemon, a lot of the times I'm sitting here kind of making excuses for this. And I will say, and I think we talked about this in private. This was the first time that I ever felt kind of dirty paying for this DLC. It's the truth is you're asking a lot from me. You're expecting me to trust you on this one, you know, with this DLC. And I'm gonna go ahead and fork over my money because I'm a Pokemon diehard. But like, it did, man. As a diehard Pokemon fan, because I have both copies of the game, spending $70 in order to complete my game.
Because they are two different games. So technically speaking, I'll let you continue, but just real quick aside, they are technically two different games. While they're very, very similar, they are technically two different games.
They're
with different
the same
Pokemon.
Exact game.
Technically, they're two different games. And if there's like a purist of the pure Pokemon guy out there, they're playing both because they're different to the even to the slice. So they are kind of expecting Pokemon fans, the purest of the pure, to pay $70. So continue.
Yep. So that's my only thing is like, for somebody that usually doesn't have any problem throwing down that kind of money, but you're not wrong. I just threw down the cost of Tears of the Kingdom for 2 DLCs in hopes that it gives me, and I really want to reemphasize this and make this point, in hopes that it makes my game feel whole. Like, that's pretty bad. And I'm willing to do it to get the full Pokemon experience out of Gen 9. But it did. And that's exactly what I said to you, Geeb, when we talked about it. I think we either talked about it on Twitter or in Discord, but it did. It felt dirty. It's like, you are like Game Freak and Pokemon. I love you. But the truth is you're kind of asking me for a lot here. Like, and I've never.
Dude, the balls on them to put out a game, 2 games, that are completely unpolished in November. To this day, they're still unpolished. There's so many issues with them still. So many complaints. Complaints so big that they themselves refunding purchases, and they themselves are acknowledging it in stuff. Something they've never done before, at least not to this extent. The balls on them to then put DLC out and raise the price of that DLC from the previous games for a total of $70.
Yeah.
Listen, we know Pokemon Company is a money-driving franchise. We know that they're a business trying to make as much money as possible. This is nothing new. What's new is to see that how much they actually care about their fan base.
Yeah.
I think this is proof. This release of Pokemon, they're telling their fan base, whether they want to hear it or not, We don't care about you. You are our cash cows, and we're going to milk you until you're tired of our subpar products and our overpriced games.
I do think that I actually, the thing is I think I said that in a recent live stream of mine. I said it somewhere. It's the truth. If you, and it pains me to say it because like Pokemon is my game, guys, but like it is the truth. If you think so little of your audience that you're going to give them an incomplete experience such as Scarlet and Violet, and it pains me to say that. I think Scarlet and Violet in so many ways are such good games, but I cannot deny the problems with them. They released in an unacceptable condition, and then to turn around a couple months later and ask $35 from me for the DLC, it's a big ask, and I don't want to say it's a slap in the face, but it's kind of a slap in the face, and it really does tell you where their focus is. If they cared, the thing is, like they've got to be able to support paying their employees and the development time and all that stuff that goes into it. I understand how business works, but the truth is like, if you have these release windows for a game where you're bringing out a mainline Pokemon game every 3 years, these games, the view and the scope of them, a mainline game is too big for that 3-year release schedule. It is too big. You can't do that much in 3 years. And so the truth is it's not really on Game Freak. It's a problem with the Pokemon Company as a whole.
Correct.
It really is.
Game Freak, they're basically contractors.
The problem is with Pokemon Company as a whole pushing these deadlines. And I would argue for a 6-year release window where these games got a little bit more polish, I would be way more happy with that. But the point that I was trying to make, though, is that it really does. It tells you that they know, and I hate to say this, guys, but it does tell you that they know we'll all just buy it anyway. And we did. I bought the DLC as I was refreshing my browser on my phone to buy that DLC, and that's the unfortunate truth. And but it tells you that they care more about the money that they're gonna make from their product than their fan base that values and loves them so much, like down to their core. And I hate to say it like that, but like Pokemon is part of my identity. And so it really did. It was kind of like a slap across the face, like here, $35, you know? And so anyway, that's where I'm at with that one.
I was going to add something and I forgot it. Apologize.
Sorry.
It was
got
gold.
off on a rant.
It's okay. It was gold though. I will say what I was going to say was gold. I can't remember what I was going to say, but yeah, it's just, I remember now. This is more proof. This is more proof and evidence. And as far as I'm concerned, a stamp and sealed signed letter going out that this is not the Breath of the Wild of the Pokemon franchise like it needed to be. And I know I'm not making a direct comparison. Because Breath of the Wild was a very different situation. The Zelda franchise was the Zelda franchise was in a very different situation than the Pokemon franchise is right now. But they kind of needed a similar result. They did not for saving the franchise, but for trying to prove themselves as a franchise and a game, and to grab onto a new audience / maybe an old audience that needs to come back.
Yes,
they failed. Because Breath of the Wild delivered. This game did not deliver as far as like their Zelda. I had a better point. I've lost the better point. But the focus, they've lost focus. They've lost me as a customer. I'm not buying this DLC. I played 115 hours in less than 4 weeks. Which is
Scarlet
a lot
for you.
Which is a lot. That's a lot for anybody, man.
Yeah.
Not for the 1% or Pokemon players,
True.
obviously,
Yeah.
but for most Pokemon players, I'm up there. I am up there.
Yeah.
And that is a ton, and that perfect opportunity for me to convert to being like buying every game, like I'm going to buy every Zelda,
like they've got me
to get me addicted. They have missed the mark. They've missed the mark hard, and the DLC is the stamp inside the wax stamp. That's there's no going back. It's on there now. They can't reopen it. I'm not gonna buy this DLC anytime soon. I might buy it down the road, but they've lost me. I was so ready. I had my fiance buy me for Christmas the Japanese double pack for this game, and it looks great, and I love it. It's a prized possession. They've lost me as a fan, not just a customer, as a fan. Because For all the reasons we already explained.
So this is the hopeful Pokemon fan in me, and maybe this is just the hopeless Pokemon fan in me. So we have to remember this is Gen 9. What number comes after 9? And I hate to say this. I hate to say this, but part of me wants to believe whether maybe this is just me taking all that copium, right? And just give me all the copium. But part of me wants to believe that they are blending Legends Arceus style gameplay with core mechanics of games like Sword and Shield, Scarlet Violet, the main series games. And they are currently in development for Gen 10, which might explain why Gen 9. Now, this is just a theory, and this is me. It's copium, right? Copium, right? That's kind of what I've tried to like tell myself, is hopefully it means that they've just taken so many assets and diverted them to take the proper level of time. Maybe Gen 10 has been in development for a long time, because Gen 10 is going to be significant. It's Generation 10. At that point, we're 30 years down the road. You know what I mean? With Pokemon, it's significant. So, look, I'll take a sucky Gen 9. I'll take it. But don't you dare screw up Gen 10. Don't you dare mess up Gen 10. And so that's the dose of copium that I've had to give myself, is hopefully it means they're diverting assets into developing Gen 10. And it's out there, but hopefully we can hope.
Yeah. Let's move on. As much as I want to keep talking about this, I love talking Pokemon with you, dude. We need to move on to the final topic of the episode.
It's a big one, guys.
Which it's pretty big, and I have a graphic to show. I have it ready to go, and we'll show it in a second. I don't have it up yet, but we will. There was a leak. This is obviously the thumbnail of the episode. There is a leak of a leaker who apparently, I'm paraphrasing and kind of summing up things in short. Apparently worked for Nintendo, who said he has all this information and he's going to give it to us. And he basically, was it 2 days, Tyson? 2 days prior to this Pokemon Presents, where they revealed all the DLC information. 2 days prior, dropped it all on 4chan. Is it 4chan?
It was 4chan, yep.
This person dropped it all on 4chan, and they got it right. Everything. They nailed this DLC. And it was impressive. It's like, okay, I mean, maybe, there's obviously this person was Japanese, seemingly, or I shouldn't say Japanese, obviously, but seemingly probably they spoke a different language, because they said my English is very poor. So they used a machine translator to translate their message. And I'm going to put on the screen right now for the video watchers, the list, but I'm going to go ahead and read it to you guys right here. I'm the programmer at Pokemon Outsourcing Company. My English is very poor, so I use machine to translate this post. The theme of the DLC is Hidden Treasure Area 0 and Hexagon. Version 1.2 includes, this is the patch, includes dressable clothes as a reward for DLC purchases. Well, that was correct. Will include, I don't know what that word is.
Yuner Minamo. And so these are Japanese names. And Tetsu Noisaha. Yeah. It's just the two legendaries. It's Ogerpon and Terrapagos is who it is.
These Paradox.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I can't read some of these words. I'm going to paraphrasing.
Lots of Paradox Suicune and Paradox Virizion.
They got it right.
Sorry. Yep.
Paraphrasing. I'm going to say they got it right. That sentence.
They did. Yep.
The next sentence. Third legendary Pokemon is a large blue turtle. That was right. Yep. I'm going to stop there. They got all this information right. All this Pokemon DLC. They got it right. The very last sentence is what I want to highlight here. This is where we transition to Switch 2. We are working on graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. And DLC 2 is going to be released in essentially Q1 of 2024.
Yeah, it says, well, winter 2023, which is the date they slated for the DLC. So the second DLC. So hopefully I bet you $1 million it'll be Christmas this year. Christmas.
So here's where we're at, Tyson. And I'm going to take this off the screen now. Here's where we're at. We just did a whole episode on Pokemon. We talked about all the Pokemon stuff. We're finishing off with the leak that was all right about Pokemon. And why we talk about Pokemon for so long is because we lead into this conversation right here, is that this leaker who leaked all this Pokemon information also put through it at the end. The only thing that we can't prove right now, because it hasn't happened yet, like time-wise, they basically said there's a new Nintendo Switch model coming out.
Switch.
A brand new Switch that that they're working on a graphics enhancement patch, probably for the old Switch, but also the new Switch is coming out. Yep. And also, before we move on, actually, I'm gonna put it back on the screen. Let's actually put it back on the screen because now we're gonna talk about. Oops, that's the wrong one. The second part, if I would bring your attention, video watchers, down below the paragraph below the first one. It's a little smaller. So they basically confirmed their
second post.
A second post. This is a second post that this is a couple days after. Okay, the couple days after this. Sorry, actually more like a week after. Regardless, they proved their identity. Essentially, what they're saying here is that I am the same person who made this first post. They say the new Switch model I mentioned is, and then there's some sort of Chinese or Japanese markings.
That actually means next. That means next gen. Essentially, is what that means.
Okay. Also, as far as I know, DLC 2 is scheduled to be released in early 2024. So they're based. What they say here is that because there was some conversation on the internet after this first post was posted, saying, "Is it what they meant? Did they mean to say that? Was it a translator?" He's basically saying, "No, for sure. I was talking about a new Switch model."
Yep.
Now, where we can take that from here, Tyson, we could take it in multiple directions. Do I think this means 100% that this is a Switch 2? Mostly. But there's a small chance here that he's talking about a revision that's not that significant. Because there's nothing in this that he said here in this post that's obvious. This is a new next gen Switch. Because he said the new Nintendo Switch. That could mean anything. Yeah. And then this says clarification. He just says the new Nintendo Switch model. So again, just something new Nintendo Switch wise. He's not talking about. I mean, like it could be something as simple as an OLED update, even though we already got that. Like something else, like a battery update. We're getting a new Switch, a V4 Switch. You know, who knows what this means? He's not saying this is the Switch Pro we all wanted. He's not saying this is the Switch 2. However, he's also not saying that either, and we can easily take it that way. Tyson, how do you take these posts?
So I don't know. It's weird because the Switch is old, and we are in a much different world than we were just a couple of years ago. I would like to think this is the Switch 2 and, you know, like a next gen Switch. And that's, I think, what we all want and what we're hopeful for. I could see it being, so I don't know, like maybe I'm thinking of like Switch generations a little bit differently than I think of, you know, like PS5 and maybe something like Xbox, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm almost thinking that, it'll be more, okay, so like I could be wrong. And I'm hopeful for that it's just like powerhouse Nintendo Switch handheld, all that stuff. You know, next gen, totally. I'm almost wondering if it's a little bit more incremental, like new Nintendo 3DS, but better. You know, because if it's backward compatible with Switch games, it really isn't next gen. Like that's not next gen. And so, like, if you can still put a Switch cart in it, it's not next gen necessarily, but. I think, and this we've talked about this, and we're definitely not the first, and we won't be the last. But I think when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, they struck gold with the Nintendo Switch, and I think that they would be dumb to move away from the model, of course, because we can also see the market is shifting much more towards handheld. Steam Deck is doing amazing. There's all kinds of things that play into this, but what I think and what I would like to hope is that we see more iPhone style upgrades to the Nintendo Switch, where
I just want to say Drip's not here to say it. He's been saying that for a while,
right? And I that's what, and I've believed that for the longest time. And when you think about it, it's the smart way to go. I can pick up my iPhone and play Clash of Clans on any iPhone, right? For the most part, right?
Yeah, like to an extent, within like the last 7 years of iPhones.
But if not more, though, to be honest,
a lot of apps are compatible from Gen 1 iPhone to now.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the way I'm looking at this. Is if this is a Switch 2, give us an exponential update to the performance and all that stuff. Great, but if not, like I'm fine with solid 60 frames per second handheld, whatever. Like I don't think you need that handheld. That's just me, but. But I that's what I would expect. Something a little bit more akin to a new Nintendo 3DS. Maybe just a little bit more. Because if it's backwards, like I said, if it's backwards compatible with Switch games, is it really a next gen? I don't think it's,
Yes. Because the Xbox is compatible, the Series X is compatible with lots of old discs.
But that's fair, and we're also in a different, like I said though, we're in a different era and landscape of hardware and software and the way that they interact with each other too. And so I do think though, and maybe we can call it next gen because that's what next gen means nowadays, but that's not what that would have meant like in the GameCube days, you know what I mean? But or N64 to GameCube. Obviously, you can't play GameCube.
I want to clarify something here because I don't know if I believe that there is such thing as a next gen console. Now we use that term all the time to describe the next generation of a console. That obviously
I don't think anymore it's a thing. I think.
Well, let me explain, Tyson. So like. What I'm trying to say, because I'm sure people are like, what are you talking about, Geeb? You fucking idiot. Like, what I mean is like, yes, the next console coming out from the company can be described as next generation. What I mean is, I think the games are next gen. The consoles, the device that is making the game happen on your screen is not what's next gen about anything. It is the games that make it next gen. The new. It's when you think about like NBA 2K terms, because that's something I can relate to. Those of you, the 5 of you out there who can relate to that with me, just go with me here for a second. NBA 2K14. Those of you who know that was like the last old gen 2K game. The 2K15 came out and it was a new engine, completely different game. It was like because these sports games, they make the same game for years and years and years, and then suddenly all of a sudden there's a new like, oh, this is like way different, because like years like 2K9 to 2K14 are all like identical games with just name upgrades. 2K15 was like, this is a completely different game, and that's what I'm trying to say is that. The consoles have very little to do with that. The consoles are just the vessel that operate using heat and electricity to make pixels on a screen light up.
Well, it'll definitely have
hardware gets better every PC especially. Hardware gets better every year incrementally. There's nothing next gen about it. Hardware getting better. Hardware is better every single year. It's the games that make it next gen.
The games drive. Yeah, the games drive the need for the hardware. And so obviously the next Switch has to have better hardware. But I think we'll continue to get Switch games. It'll hopefully they'd be stupid.
Anybody who there's a few of you guys in the community out there who think that we're getting a 4K Switch with 4K
Maybe
output,
docked.
but also a 4K screen even, and you're thinking and you're saying like, oh, they're just going to make the battery better. And I think you know what I'm talking about, Power Matt. I'm sorry, I'm going to call you out.
It's way too much power.
Listen, you don't want all that. And
you can't support it.
The Steam, everyone loves the Steam Deck. Everyone thinks the Steam Deck can run laps around the Switch because it can. The Steam Deck has a 720p screen. Okay, the Steam Deck pretty much runs games at 720p. It can, for some games, have the capability of running 4K. Yes,
dude.
The thing doesn't need. That's why the Steam Deck is not superior to the Switch. Is that it's basically just a PC in your hands.
Well,
the PCs are great, but a console is something different. All right.
Well, and then battery technology is not there. So I don't know who's saying 4K handheld. Battery technology is not there to support that kind of gameplay. You'll get 15 minutes out of 4K in a decent sized hand. You know what I mean? Like, no, all that happening.
All that to say, what I said. All you need, and you're going to see a difference. Those of you who think you don't, you're wrong.
Maxed.
You're going to see a difference. 1080p.
Maximum.
Listen, when phones, because I'm a big tech fan. I know all about phones, especially prior. My knowledge of current phones is iffy, but back in the day, late 2010s, early 2010s. I like when you went from 720p to 1080. That was like. You can see the difference. It was like, whoa. And when they went to 1440p, it was a little bit less of a difference.
Yeah.
It was like, because 1080p is that good. 720 there's a big difference from 720 to 1080, but there's not as big of a difference from 1080 to you know what the difference is? Less battery life in your phone. There's no amount of battery tech you can make. 4K, 1440p is always going to drain a significant more amount of battery than 1080 is.
Well,
all that to say again is that the Switch doesn't need to be the screen resolution does not need to change. It does not need the output of the system needs to change. It needs to be able to be capable of 1440p. or 4K even, if there is upscaling involved, because you don't want the system to natively put 4K out. You don't want that. It's not going to be this portable.
It won't
anymore.
be portable anymore.
It's not going to be. The Steam Deck is already borderline not portable. Okay, if you want this, because I do, this is beautiful, sleek and beautiful. If I want to make it bigger with a grip, I want sure, but I want to forcefully have something huge. Okay, you don't want. Listen, people, the market. Listen, I'm telling Uncle Geeb knows. Okay, Uncle Geeb knows.
Uncle Geeb knows.
Your uncle, your favorite uncle knows. You don't want what you think you want, consumer. You're gonna get what you want, because we didn't think we wanted an OLED either. A lot of us were very disappointed with just an OLED. We wanted a better Switch.
I was pretty happy with the OLED.
A lot of us wanted where's the next gen? Where's the Switch Pro? This is bullshit. Listen, we didn't know what we didn't know. This is what we wanted. The OLED, that's what we wanted. I mean, we want more, obviously, but that was great. We didn't want that. We thought we didn't want it, but it turns out we did, because that screen is beautiful, makes a big difference. If you put an OLED screen on a 1080p Switch,
it's gonna look amazing.
You're gonna think this is next gen.
I think Alex.
One more thing, Tyson. I'm just sorry. The most important thing here is the output, because that's what's gonna make it feel next gen.
Yeah, I agree.
If they can output it with AI 1440p. But natively 1080 signal, or even 720.
But even docked, you don't need that handheld, right?
No. I'm talking output docked. I'm not talking handheld. 720p handheld. You're gonna get 60 frames butter on Breath of the Wild in the next Switch.
Yep. But I think to Alex's point, I want to just bring this up. Alex is in the chat, and I think he says basically what you just said, and what I think we all want out of a next gen Switch. I just want 30 and 60, locked 30 and 60, want 4K docked. And that's it, man. And I think that's all you need. If anyone out there asking for a 4K handheld, dude, my gaming laptop lasts 10 minutes, when and it's got a bigger battery than the Switch if you try and play a game.
And not only that, dude, but also, excuse me, my sister's going through this right now. Her gaming laptop is on the fritz now. The battery just won't hold a charge enough to even it won't hold a charge for her to get her information off of it to a new console. So it's not only that it won't it's going to die in an hour. It's that in 2 years
that battery.
In 2 years you're not going to be able to ever turn your Switch on again without a battery replacement.
Yep.
You just don't want what you think you want, consumer.
Well, and the thing is too, and I think we're getting a little bit into the weeds here now at this point, but I think it's good conversation to have, is look at everything they're doing with NSO. Look at at the tail end of the Switch's life. Look at everything they're doing with NSO. Are we stupid enough to believe that just all goes away with the end of the Nintendo Switch? Or is there not an end of the Nintendo Switch, right? We're definitely, at this point, I think it's safe to say we're getting a new Switch, especially if this leak holds true. It's definitely going to be a Switch. So the question is what kind of Switch are we getting? Is it a new Nintendo 3DS type upgrade, or is it true next gen for the Switch? Because next gen for the Switch doesn't mean the same thing that it means for other consoles. It's totally different. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would. But we're not getting a next gen. Listen, we're not getting a next gen Switch. Period. End of story. We're not getting one. We're good. Whatever we get next, no matter what the name is, it's going to be incremental. The next Switch we get is not going to be a huge, massive change. And if I'm wrong about that, I'm going to be ecstatic if I'm wrong about that. But listen, we're not getting that huge, crazy, big Switch that everyone thinks we're going to get. It's going to be incremental.
After this leak, one of the first things I thought about, because I messaged you privately and told you to tell me how dumb I was for doing this, was I bought some of the new Hori split pad compacts, because I'm a big old stan for those Hori split pads, man. But I got the Pikachu themed ones. But one of the things I actually thought, I already have. You reminded me of that. You're not welcome back ever again. But
get off here.
But I have multiple pairs of those already. I just really like this design. But actually, one of the things that I thought to myself when I was buying them was, dude, if there's a new Switch coming out this year, do I want to spend $60 to buy these if these aren't going to be compatible with it? And then I thought to myself, there's no way they're not going to be compatible. So here's the thing. And I think this is how we know that it's not going to be true next gen. It'll be incremental, and it'll be adequate. Incremental and adequate. Whatever performance updates they make to the hardware of this new Switch will definitely be adequate. We'll get, Tears of the Kingdom 60K. Hopefully Pokemon gets a performance update, right? All that stuff. But I think, see, the Tegra chip in the Switch is incredibly outdated, and it was at the time that the Switch was new. And
Yes.
you can make chips of that size that outperform the chip that's currently in it. And so whatever Switch we get, I think it definitely, I don't want to speak in absolutes, but I personally think that it definitely fits the same form factor because you can squeeze more tech into that same form now, even than you could back then. But all that tech was outdated even then. So like we could easily make the case that whatever new Switch that comes out is still going to be compatible with your Joy-Cons. It's still going to be compatible with the split pad Pros. And then hopefully we get Pro Joy-Cons, whatever. That's another conversation. But I think it's the same form factor. And that's what we want. That's what you don't want a 4K native handheld experience. It will last you 5 minutes. But what you want is a polished system that has adequate performance for the task at hand, right?
Perfectly said, Tyson.
I rest my case.
I mean, we could talk about this many for much longer.
How you doing, dude?
I'm doing all right.
Thanks for letting me take your place, man.
I appreciate you taking my place. I appreciate it so much, man. I really, really do. Really do.
It's my pleasure, dude.
Who is Tyson? Who the fuck is this guy? Who is talking right now?
This is the guy that's
/ban Drip Media. Who's this imposter? Get him out of here.
Yeah, I know. Fuck you, Geeb.
Love
I got my link wrong, guys. Hang on.
Let me pull the chat up here. Let's talk. I heard you guys talking about this stuff. I want to
do it.
talk.
Let's do it, man.
Hey, Geeb, can you delete?
Yeah, you're not
I
gonna
was
be
trying to
mocked. Fuck
shameless
off.
self-promote while
I see.
while you
Well,
were
that's
away.
why.
He's done it
I can't
every
trust
time
you.
you've walked away. It's hilarious.
I heard his speech. He's like, he can't hear me. He's like, no, I can hear you. I can hear you, Tyson self-plugging.
But seriously, guys, Fight Night Friday is always fun.
I'm getting his link right now, but the link is also it's below. So like, good.
Oh
check that out.
it's in the description. I'm an idiot, guys. I'm sorry,
You're-
but no,
you're good.
it is fun, guys. I have a blast doing it. Like as much as I talk negatively
it
on
is fun.
Scarlet and Violet,
It is fun.
It's fun, man. Battling's my forte, and that's where, especially as like a streamer and entertainer, like I feel like I really shine. So I'd love to have you there, even if you don't battle. Just come watch and hang out.
If I may, Tyson, because I know not everybody here is a big Pokemon fan. If you're not a big Pokemon fan like me, you can also have fun in Tyson's chat. He entertains the idea of you not being a Pokemon fan, and he still is able to include you.
Honestly, yeah.
And he will tell you what's going on if you want.
That's me. Yeah, that's me. I'm always asking stupid questions.
I love your questions.
Honestly,
when does the fish evolve into the red dragon guy or whatever?
the blue dragon, the water dragon. Said what? Yeah. Well, my daughter was asking. She did do it. She did.
That's great.
She did get the Gyarados. Correct? Right? That's what it's called?
Gyarados. You got it right, Drip. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think that's the first one ever. But
you get Pikachu, can't you?
I really liked what you did the other night. The shiny hunting thing you did from it. That was fun. That was really fun to watch. I was really interested in that, honestly.
Chat dug it, and then I think the thing is like Faptor Race and I had some conversations about that privately, where before Scarlet and Violet launched, I haven't streamed Scarlet and Violet. I really just wanted to take those games and soak them up, and so I've only done a few streams since Scarlet Violet launched, and they've all been within the last couple weeks. But me and Fappy had talked about that before they even released, is like, man, like with this union room stuff, like it would actually make it really fun to pull viewers. It makes it fun for it to be a streamer because you can pull your viewers in and you can shiny race with each other. I actually had some guy in my chat that was playing with me that not only did he steal a shiny from me, but he wanted to use the appropriate ball to catch it, but he didn't have one. So he ran away from the encounter, which if you're playing alone normally is okay. The Pokemon will still be spawned if you run away from it. But when you're in a union room, if you run away from it, that Pokemon disappears. So not only did he steal it from me, but he failed it himself because he ran away from it because he wanted a different colored ball to use on it.
That was last Friday, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was funny.
I watched almost all of it.
It was a lot of fun, man. So and we'll do those kinds of things. I feel like breaking up the monotony of just battling and letting people come in and play with me, to take a break in between battles is really fun. So
yeah, that was definitely cool.
It's a really, the one thing about Scarlet and Violet that I'll say, aside from all the problems, is when the multiplayer works, it is incredibly fun to play, especially with people, whether it's friends. Me and Geeb have played, me and Fappy have played, me and Geeb and Fappy have played, and then me and random viewers have played, and it's it's a fun time. So anyway, but all the negative stuff aside, it really is a lot of fun, and I hope you guys will come hang out. It'll be a good time. But that's enough of me. Let's talk about holy things, sister.
Okay, I want to start here. I was trying to like make notes and I didn't, but I should have. Tyson, you said something earlier that I was really, I wanted to just type in the chat, but this is way too long. You were asking about, all the things they've done with NSO going forward. What's that going to be? I don't think that goes away.
No, that's what I was saying.
It definitely does not go away, because you have to remember this. This is the thing that you have to remember. If you look back before the Switch, everything was tied to a console, not a username,
not a cloud-based online system that they can transfer to anything.
They've completely changed that, and they've done that for this exact reason. So this online stuff can continue forward. This is just the beginning of the online stuff.
Agreed.
We're going to see so much more.
And I think, but the point, I don't know if I made it clear when I said that, because I agree with what you just said. And so maybe it wasn't clear, but I think that's exactly part of what points us to, we're not getting whatever we're getting next is definitely a Switch. It's not a home console. Yeah. It has to be because of the leak, because of NSO, and just because of the way that things are going, they struck gold with the Switch. But I do think NSO points to, we'll say iPhone 13 to iPhone 14. It points to Switch next, Switch Plus, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing I was thinking when you guys said that. Like the thing that, like Geeb said, like I always talk about the incremental iPhone type updates.
Yes.
But that's the thing. Like, we're kind of getting hung up on a name here. Whatever, Switch 2. But I mean, incremental updates on an iPhone are still iPhone 12, iPhone 13, still incremental updates. You know what I mean?
The biggest takeaway you can, going off your point, the biggest takeaway you can think of is this. Think of it like this, I mean. You're not going from Xbox One to Xbox Series S or X. You're not going from PS2 to PS3. You're going, it's more similar to what iPhones are going through, rather than, you have a quote unquote generation of Xbox and moving on 7 years later to the next generation. We're not waiting 7 more years for another Switch console. We're getting another revision. Switch Pro, Switch 2, whatever the name is.
Yeah, okay, well, But are we? Let's go back to that, because that's what I wanted to start with you guys. Because I still, honestly, as much as I want this to be real, this stuff happens all the time. When someone gets, maybe someone has this information and then they just pop on, oh yeah, Switch 2's coming too. Or this extra bullshit thing that doesn't happen. This happens a lot.
Yes.
4chan, anywhere, really. Anywhere you see these leaks, this stuff, maybe somebody does have information. This Pokemon stuff was clearly 100% correct.
They knew, yes.
And where they were, if that's where they actually are, that makes sense for them to know. It doesn't make a ton of sense for them to know that a next-gen Switch is coming out in that situation. I don't think that's something Nintendo is going to be just putting out there to everyone. Maybe, get ready for this thing.
Well, I do, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I do, though, if this person claimed to be working on Pokemon Scarlet and
Violet. They're like an outsourced company, correct?
So yes. So if he's developing the DLC or helping to develop the DLC, then he would have to know what he's developing for. And so that's, I think.
I guess you're right.
I mean? He would have, and that's the only. This
guy's got some balls. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, he
coming out like that. This guy's going to be dead in 3 days. Somebody's coming after him.
Yeah. Well, they'll find him. And
Nintendo ninjas are gonna.
I don't know how they haven't found. If you guys aren't following, just Google Riddler Khu. It's KHU, and you'll find his Twitter. But that's the main. So I reference a lot when I've been on the podcast with you guys that there's one credible Pokemon leaker, and he leaks in riddles. But they all come true. They all come true. So he I don't know how this guy knows, but he knows. I would recommend everybody go follow him. But the funny thing is I don't know how they haven't found him yet, and they don't know who he is. because he's been leaking for years. And
he needs Depends. He's leaking so much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bro. Like he needs 2 layers. It depends. You know,
somebody
like,
just change his diaper, dude. Just change that diaper. You got a
Some
leaky diaper. It
plastic
needs
sheets.
changed. Just change it. Don't be a neglectful parent. Just change the diaper.
A
That's it.
bedpan.
like to address what Shibby says could be a Pokemon OLED Lite, but they wouldn't need to do anything about performance with just
Yeah,
an
because
OLED Lite.
I was coming hard on. Oh no, it's an OLED light.
No,
but no,
they don't
yeah,
need to do
that
anything.
doesn't- Yeah, the
No.
performance thing was specifically mentioned.
Yes.
So if that is what it is, yeah, you're 100% right. It's not a light.
There's no way. Okay, so here's the thing. Like we have all had this conversation, guys. Like all of us sitting here in this chat right now. And I think Drip, you and I were in agreement at one point that we thought that there was a Switch, a new Switch model coming with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
At this point now, I don't know
No.
if it's coming with Tears of the Kingdom,
Absolutely
but it
not.
is. There's a Switch coming this year, if not early next year. But they'd be stupid to not get it out with the Pokemon DLC
Before Christmas.
before Christmas.
Yeah.
Because
Okay. That's what was so weird about everything I've heard today, because you said differently than I've heard all day today. Because I did, I wasn't going to come on tonight, and I didn't do any research, and I was just like, listen, it's been a week. I'm not coming on. It's going to just not go into it. But I got down a rabbit hole for a minute today, and I found some of the stuff where a lot of people are saying like, oh no, this DLC, the second wave of DLC is it's gonna come out in 2024. But you said that it was scheduled for winter of this year, correct?
Pokemon themselves in the presents said it was winter 2023.
Okay. So let's go with that, because
Christmas.
how much sense does this make? Because I think none. You announce a new Nintendo Switch in November, and then put it out in like Feb. Like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? That's so stupid.
It's not happening.
Holiday sales are completely bombed at that point. They would never do that to themselves.
I think if anything, so think about and you can tell me if I'm wrong. You are way better with the Nintendo specific stuff than I am. But in this case, since the leak kind of coincided with Pokemon stuff and kind of taking my Pokemon intuition a little bit, I think that we potentially see I think we potentially see an announcement for this new Switch, not necessarily alongside in the same.
I know what you're gonna say already, but I agree. Go ahead.
It'll be at the same time frame. So
yeah,
we won't. Okay, so so the first DLC wave is fall 2023. So that the Pokemon DLC is in 2 waves, fall and winter. I think they release the first DLC and they announce it with the small Pokemon Presents, and then at the same time it's not the same exact time and not in the same video.
Right, they are separate, completely separate things.
But at the same time in a Nintendo Direct, there is a new Switch announcement.
Not a Direct. Won't be a Direct.
Well,
Promise
something. But like a shadow.
But
remember,
yes, it will be
it'll just be an ad for it, like the Switch Lite.
Yeah, they just dropped it. That's how it'll be. That's how it'll end up being. It'll be just a drop.
And I'm thinking October. I'm thinking September, October, but probably October, because that just seems right for the first wave of DLC to me. So they announced this new Switch, and then the next DLC comes not November, which is what we would expect to normally see for Pokemon content, but it comes Christmas. Comes right before
just
the
a
holiday.
little bit before Christmas, like early December.
Right. And then that's also boom, the new Switch, boom, boom, and then they use all those things to highlight the performance enhancements and all that stuff.
Yeah, and
but
Pokemon Switch right there alongside it, just like they did with the Lite.
Maybe. But I think at bare minimum we get Pokemon DLC release marketing videos October, new Switch announcement October alongside it, and then it's announced for early, like you said, early December, and then the new DLC drops, new Switch alongside, and hey, it just so happens to be compatible. Pick it up for your kid for Christmas. Merry Christmas, bitches.
Yeah. I think whatever this is, we're it's backwards compatible for sure.
Oh, 100%.
I want to mention here, guys, we got a great comment from Nathaniel, which they remind me of something from earlier, which I was going to bring up during the episode, but I'll bring it up now because we got that Mario Switch that was announced today. The new Mario Switch, basically is red Joy-Cons on an
Mario
OV2.
Switch. That's the old Mario Switch in a new box. It's the same one.
I want those Joy-Cons so bad. Can somebody just sell those Joy-Cons to me?
They did for a while in Japan.
Coca Baby, gotta talk to Coca Baby. But here we are. So
because he's gonna buy it and he's gonna offer me the Joy-Cons. You can't have them.
Dude,
I'm gonna buy it.
I just want. Here's what I want. Sorry, Geeb, I don't mean to interrupt you. But this is what I want. I have white OLED Joy-Cons. I just want not the neon red, but actual Mario red, so that I can have one white Joy-Con and one red Joy-Con, so I can have a gosh dang Pokemon Switch.
You want these? You want these red ones?
So,
I have those. I do have those red ones. I don't have the Switch, but I do have those Joy-Cons. Thanks, Coco Baby.
Nathaniel's comment. Thank you for being. You're good. The biggest giveaway to me about the Switch 2 / new Nintendo system.
I'll be right back. I'm listening. I got it on my phone. I got to run upstairs.
You're good.
Sounds good.
New Nintendo Switch would be to drop. Sorry, let me restart that. The biggest giveaway to me about cannot talk tonight. About the Switch 2 new Nintendo Switch system would be the drop is in place art. Oh my god, I can't fucking talk tonight. I'm sorry, Nathaniel and everybody else. Here's the point Nathaniel's trying to make. They're getting rid of systems right now, the old stock. Why exactly? Maybe they're getting rid of old stock to prepare for the new stock. Nathaniel goes on to say, the biggest giveaway to me... I'm sorry, that's the other one. The first one. They did that with Monster Hunter Switches before the OLED dropped, and then Xbox and PlayStation have done drops with special systems or a good quantity of systems before dropping PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. So basically, Nathaniel was trying to say is that they've done this before. This is a telltale sign. They're trying to get rid of old stock.
Yep. But that's why you're seeing the Mario
V2,
Switch.
Mario.
Not only the Mario Switch, the Pokemon Switch is back in stock.
Yep. And
they're doing everything. They're throwing everything they have. Now we're going to get this Tears of the Kingdom one. They are throwing everything at the wall right now to get this shit out the door.
Dude,
for sure.
And it is in the Pokemon Switch is in stock. Like it's at GameStop. You can go buy it.
It's like the Animal Crossing Switch. You can just go get it. Yeah.
It's insane. But
you're right. They're just putting this stuff out. They're getting it. Yeah. And now with these leaks, I mean, and we don't know that this is true, but with these leaks, it's probable at this point. Like something is happening. Their projections for their Switch sales for the year, and you have to remember that their year it ends next March. So that's the first let's say drops in December. You've got December, January, February, and March. But not only are they dropping a bunch of special editions, restocking special editions, they're going to drop a new one at the end of the year, and it's going to sell like crazy. And that's why those projections are what they are, and it makes sense now.
And that's exactly right, in my opinion. Like I don't want to speak in facts because this might not age well, right? But I think you're right, because didn't they do their sales numbers with the 3DS? They globbed them all together, right? So whether it was 2DS, 3DS,
they did, yeah.
So I think I think that bolsters our argument with Switch sales, because we were all kind of wondering, how the heck are they projecting to sell that many Switches? Well, if you drop a new Switch before holiday season, but it's still a Switch and it's all the same numbers, boom, there you go.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you could call it whatever the hell you want to call it, but if it's still a Switch, it's still and they, that's the thing. Nintendo makes those rules. They're the ones who say, no, it's still a Switch. Like, it's not anybody else who's like, no, it's not a, like, they get to say, oh no, it's a Switch. And that's why these numbers are going. I think at this point, I don't know. It's something I want. Like, clearly I want a new Switch. I want something more powerful. I want to touch on the battery stuff and all that other stuff you talked about earlier too. So don't let me forget that. But I think at this point, it's very interesting. I don't know. I'm still just scared that this guy just tacked this shit on at the end to get everybody hyped.
He's an anonymous poster.
It's happened before. It's happened before.
But he's an anonymous poster on 4chan, and so he doesn't really stand to gain anything from it. You know what I mean? Like you see that. Usually you'll see that for clout. This guy doesn't get any
Twitter
clout.
Stuff,
Yeah, this guy doesn't get any clout because you don't know who he is, right?
I mean,
nobody.
not.
He's gonna lose his job probably. I mean, he probably is gonna get caught.
Oh, they'll find him and they'll kill
The
him.
Nintendo ninjas will find him, and he'll have 4 ninja stars in his heart.
He'll get
the
a
end of
Wii
this
U. The Nintendo ninjas carry around Wii U discs and they just like fling them like ninja stars.
They're actually modified GameCube discs.
You're right about. I'm sorry, you're right about that. But he's gonna get one right in the noggin, man. He's gonna get one right in the skull. He's going down. So he's going down. So he knows he is. I'm sure he knows.
So the other thing you guys were talking about the battery life and the screen resolution and all that stuff.
Yep.
I can tell you right now, having a Steam Deck, I think the screen maxes out at 800p.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little. To clarify, Drip, though, 800p, that doesn't mean there's more pixels than the Switch OLED. Yes, however, it's just because it's an aspect thing. It's an aspect ratio thing.
Yeah,
it's
that's
still
fine. So we're basically looking at 720p. Okay, I play Red Dead on that. With the settings I have, I'm running basically solid 40 frames per second, and it looks like incredible. It looks so good, like stupidly good. You do not need any more than that. I know, Geeb, you said like going from 720 to 1080 made a big difference, but I can tell you right now, if you saw what this looked like in person, you would like all they need is just a little boost. They just need some power. That's all they need. They don't need any more with the screen. They don't.
Look at a game.
So, but Drip, I'm sorry, Tyson. One more thing about that, Drip, is that it's 800p, but also it's a bigger screen than the Switch OLEDs as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It is, yeah. I think
or actually, wait, no, the OLED screen might be.
I think they're close to the same size.
Well, I think the pixel density on the Switch OLED, if you don't understand what I mean by pixel density, it's where like the bigger the screen, the less pixels. So the pixel density is slightly more on the OLED than it is on the Steam Deck.
I just did a video about this.
There's even more pixels on the OLED, but you're saying how great it looks on the non-OLED less pixel screen of the Steam Deck. So it just proves the point more that you don't need more than 720p. If a game is 1080p, I'm not gonna riot. But like as long as they can contain the battery power and make it still.
But at 1080p,
which they can.
You're gonna have to at 1080p to in order to regulate battery power, you might have to stifle a little bit of performance. So you probably run at 30 FPS handheld or something like locked or whatever. But I do wonder, like, what do you guys think about this? So like right now, the internet and really the gaming community as a whole is clamoring for a new Switch, and I do wonder. I think all of us are thinking critically and reasonably here, thinking that we really don't need more than 720p handheld. 1080 would be nice, and I think we would all take it.
As long as they can do it right, yeah.
Yeah, given the battery life is there, but I would be happy with 720p. Agreed. I think, though, the larger internet community would riot at a Switch, at an upgraded Switch with 720p. And so I do wonder a little bit. Now, Nintendo always dances to the beat of their own drum, but I do wonder a little bit if Nintendo does a little something to appease and to give, because they don't want another Wii U situation, right? Where people think it's the same thing. So, and I think people are starting, I think companies are starting to learn that people really understand performance and graphics and frames per second and those kinds of things. And so I do wonder if they maybe, knowing that you don't really need 1080p for a handheld experience like that, as long as the dock has the performance to play your game smoothly. I do wonder if they do something a little bit to appease the crowd to avoid another Wii U situation where they say, hey, look, handheld's gone from 720p to 1080. Do you think that's a possibility?
They will go to 1080p, I think, in the next... So? And here's why. Because you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a 1080p image outputting. You think about your TV. Your TV is 4K. You can watch 1080p content on just fine. The games can still run 720p on a 1080p display.
Very true.
It's not that expensive to put a 1080p panel over 720. They can do 1080p. I think for the point you made, there will be a 1080p screen on next version of Switch.
Yeah.
I think you're right, but I think for different reasons. I think they'll upgrade it. If they do upgrade it, it's not because people understand and it's because of the normies. It's because of the people who aren't us, like super nerds who are like this and that. It's just another thing they can advertise, like, 1080p
that's
screen,
what I'm saying.
bigger.
Yep.
That's for the people who don't understand all this stuff, the people who just look at it from like, I saw that ad for that new Switch. This one, 720, 1080, I'm definitely getting that new one. Yeah, that would be the reason.
I think they have to for like, and I brought up a little bit of a different reason, but for the kind of for the same thing. If it's not different enough and it doesn't distinguish itself enough from the previous Switch, then most people might not see a reason to buy it or upgrade, especially if it's backwards compatible.
Yeah. Okay. That brings me to another thing. The new Switch. Geeb had this idea a few podcasts ago. Does it have another way to switch? Is there a new functionality for this
Casting would be
Switch?
sick. Casting would be so
It would
sick.
be because it works. I can tell you right now, you can do it from Steam to a TV with a controller. You can do it from Steam to the Steam Deck with you can do it. It's 100% possible. I went down to Matt Moran's house one night. It was a while back, and he was playing one of the older Mortal Kombat games, just running through like the story mode of it. And he was streaming it from his PC over to his TV. And we were sitting in the living room playing it with the Steam controller, which is awful, but it was fine. There was barely, like, I couldn't even notice lag at all.
Are we talking about the same thing? Are you talking about casting like on your phone, from your phone to your TV, like wirelessly?
It's basically the same thing. That's
like
what
AirPlay.
Steam, that's what Steam basically does. Yeah. So
Dude, that'd be sick.
And it works with the Steam Deck too. You can you don't have to download the games to your Steam Deck. If you have a Steam library on your computer and it's got Wi-Fi connection, you're there. You're in. You can set it up in the menu of the Steam Deck. So
I'm here for that, dude.
Okay, but Geeb's idea was this. You remember the Wii U, obviously, the failure, but what that did, that limited...
I'm not drunk. I'm not listening. I'm listening. Listen, man who doesn't stream, Alex. You don't stream. You don't know what it takes to stream. I'm looking at a chat. I'm looking at analytics. I'm listening to Drip. I'm listening to Tyson. I'm making sure the stream is not broken. I'm doing a lot of things here. Yeah, dick.
All right, to get back to it.
Tell my genius idea about this, Drip.
Okay, Geeb's idea,
so funny,
like a few weeks ago, and I really love this idea, is that idea of the Wii U's limited streaming capability. You know, you used to be able to take it to, you used to be able to play the game on the handheld part, right? But it wasn't on the TV. Somebody else could watch TV, and you were playing the game on the handheld, just on the little screen on the gamepad. So I think his idea was that comes back, but it's another way to switch. So you would have that. Oh, Jesus.
Yep. You know, what's my idea?
So that's the idea.
Yep.
I like. Oh, Abby says, "Bruh."
Yeah.
Dude, I'm losing it.
I love that. I love your idea, Drip.
It's not my idea. It's your idea. I really love it though.
It's my.
But that would be one way. That would be
shit.
one way for them to incorporate a new version of same Switch, but it does more, which would also be appealing.
Yeah.
And I mean, from there you can really start to do the games like you used to do on like the 3DS, the DS, the Wii U, and have that second screen. You don't need it, but I mean, we've seen them take games from the Wii U that needed that second screen. Yeah. We've seen them take that and make it into one screen. Jesus Christ.
I love that's a good. I wish they would do that too, Drip.
This is part of the normal podcast.
It's my favorite. Love that idea, Drip. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
I'm sorry,
dude,
guys.
Alex just derailed the whole after show.
Yeah,
I have one more drink that I needed to have. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry.
I think it's gonna be games that are switched to only. Yeah, I mean,
I just stream like this.
There's definitely gonna be. I mean, I think it's gonna be a lot different than what we see now with like Xbox and PlayStation, where they're really just now starting to be like, okay, this is only PS5. This is only, and Xbox isn't doing that. But I mean, PlayStation has started to do that just recently. I think they'll do that. They did the same thing. I mean, I really think they're going to follow the handheld model that they've always had.
Yeah.
I mean, just with the DS, the 3DS, the new 3D, all those things. I mean, yeah, there were certain games that, like, if you didn't have the new 3DS, you could play it, but do you want to? Probably don't.
I think it's a great idea.
It was your idea.
I think that's the
right.
idea, though. I think we're all on the same page. It's just the question is how does it get implemented? You know what I mean? And like in the world of tech now, especially compared to when the Switch originally launched, I mean, like the world's their freaking oyster, man. Like, and they can even make an inexpensive console that still way outperforms the Switch.
Well, yeah, the technology in the Switch is 2015,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, it like, dude, the amount of like options they have, even with like budget hardware, you know, whether we're talking about casting, you know, like think about having, dude, I would love this. I remember sitting. This is when the 3DS was all I played with Pokemon on my 3DS. Can you imagine that? But I remember sitting, it was before the Switch even came out. So the Switch wasn't even a thing. But I remember sitting on my couch playing my Switch and I was shiny hunting some EVs or something, right? And I remember looking over to my wife and being like, man, because my wife and I use our phones a lot to just like cast videos to the TV. It's so convenient. You can just lay in bed and send a movie right to your TV. And I remember looking at my wife, I'm playing my 3DS, and I look at her and I was like, man, I just wish that I could take my 3DS and just play Pokemon on the TV with it. So I think that's a really good point with, hey, it could switch in a different way. So can you guys imagine for a second, imagine a world where
imagine a world
where you open this Tom Talk case and you've got the Hori split pads in there.
The Hori split
pads. They're the
Boom.
best controllers
Imagine a
right
world.
now on the market for the Switch. But no, but seriously, imagine whether it's Hori split pads or Joy-Cons or whatever, you're sitting on your couch and all of a sudden you just decide, hey, I'm done playing on the couch. I want a bigger screen. I'm going to push this cast button in the top right corner or whatever, the options menu, whatever, wherever it is. And I'm going to play it on my TV. And I don't have to physically dock it anywhere. And I can just, boop, there it is. Like, how
but you
sick
still
would that be?
can. And that's where the performance
Right.
upgrades would come for the TV.
But
That's Geeb's idea, not mine. But
And I think that's either
Go ahead,
way,
Tyson.
you still want a dock, of course. You still want the option to have a dock for the performance. But how sick would it be if they added like some kind of casting functionality, man?
that's what I'm
Like,
saying. I mean, that was Geeb's idea when we were talking about what we would like to see in a new Switch. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic.
I wouldn't say my idea is casting, because my idea is basically making the best parts about the Wii U into the Switch as we know it. That's my, and with that, also inside the dock as we know it, our current Nintendo dock, Switch dock,
There's something in there we don't know about already.
Add the chip or activate it, I guess, to activate the upscaling. That is so it's in there already. So just to clarify, I mean, Dripper Credit kind of explained it. I was drunk, so I don't remember what happened. But basically, my idea was that you could play docked mode at Switch as you know it with upscaled graphics, and you're getting your 1440p or 4K or just like, you know, solid 1080 60 for some games on the TV. But you can undock it, and the dock also functions as a streaming device. So your Switch, you're able to play games on your Switch screen like a Wii U, and use your Wii. Sorry, you can also use your Switch as a controller. And then at the same time, you have the touchscreen, you have access to the touchscreen, but you're also looking at your game on the TV, and that's going to stream off that console itself, off the Switch itself. So there's no streaming device involved. The dock is a streamer as well. You're not buying a secondary device.
Your idea is more involved than I made it out to be, but it's still casting. It's still casting.
Yeah. Just want to clarify.
But yeah. I mean, the technology's out there, and this is not expensive tech. This has been around for a long time.
It's built into everything now.
It works great with the Wii. It works great with the Wii U. The Wii U's old.
It worked great with the Wii. I mean, just think about.
I want you to know, like, the podcast that's going to happen on the day the Wii Shop, the Wii Shop, the eShop ending for the Wii U and 3DS. We're gonna do a Wii U 3DS. What's that? Reprised or retrospective. We're gonna do that, Drew. That's gonna happen because I have lots to say about the matter. I have tons and tons to say.
I have stuff to say about that for sure.
I have tons. I could do my own episode and forget you. You're fired. You were fired. Why are you here? You were fired earlier.
Well, I'm just coming back for one last. Hurrah.
Okay, well, hurrah! Cool.
He's just here to get his stuff, to box it all up before we walk him out.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. It's fine. I don't have that much stuff here. It's fine. I one box is fine. Smaller.
Oh my god.
I think that I don't know. I'm very curious to see where this goes and how we play out the second half of the year. Because think about this. Like, this is another thing that kind of lines up too. After Tears of the Kingdom, there ain't shit.
No.
We've got
DLC,
2 waves of
that's it.
DLC for Mario Kart left this year. That's it.
Well, and I think that
Okay,
I
and
think
Pokemon
that-
DLC.
And it's
it
so online.
points-
Yeah, and that. But that's it.
And
That's
Advance
it.
Wars.
What do you think? So, if they're gonna launch new hardware towards the tail end of the year, so that I mean, we're getting out now, like into just like what if territory, right? But if they launch new hardware at the end of the year, holiday
What
season,
if?
what do they launch with it? Odyssey 2, maybe?
No. We would have heard something already.
Prime 4
Ooh, yeah.
lines up.
Prime
does.
Remastered 2. Prime 2 Remastered.
No, I think we get I think we
Prime
get
4
seven.
launching with the new one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think whatever form Prime 2 and 3 come in, it's gonna be another shadow drop
If
Would you
they
guys-
come.
if they come.
I do believe this, though. I believe that what Breath of the Wild did for the Switch 2 is going to do for Metroid with Prime 4.
Other
I
way
think-
around. I agree. Yeah, because
I
that's
think it's
they've clearly been pushing
Yes.
just the Metroid franchise in general
yes.
a little harder than they ever have, and they're making it. I mean, they released Metroid Dread with the OLED.
Yep.
Which that's not
I think
a
you're
name
right.
you would normally hear with a console. Like it's
Well,
it's a
and-
Mario, it's a Zelda, it's a Mario Kart, something like that.
And the
Not a
marketing
Metroid
too.
game.
Like the effort that they put into marketing with the Emmys being white and the Joy-Cons on the OLED being
Oh
white. like,
yeah.
I
And I mean, the
think-
first shot you see of the OLED
Yes.
is with Metroid.
Yep, with the Emmys.
Yeah,
with the Emmys.
yeah. That's the first thing you see.
And I think you're right. I don't know. I think there's something there. And I think, dude, I don't know if you guys have beaten Prime yet, but like,
I'm still working through it.
bro, like
Waiting for my Nixie joypad to come.
100%, you should get Hori split pads. They're way better.
Fuck yourself. Masturbate with the other hand so it's less comfortable.
No.
That's your punishment.
Now we're getting it. Now come on now.
No,
I'm so a little
wonder-
drunk, sorry.
I wonder
yeah, sorry.
though. I think you're right though. I think there is a little bit of more effort putting, effort and emphasis into really trying to push Metroid. I guess I don't know the sales numbers though. Like, is Metroid? I almost did Skyward Sword, because Skyward Sword was kind of the low point for Zelda, correct? Like, it
Yeah,
didn't sell
that's
that
correct.
great.
Yeah.
Does Dread sell more than, or not Dread? Sorry, does
Dread
Metroid sell
sold
more
like
than-
what, 3 million, 4 million? I mean, it's somewhere around there.
So, but
it's
how
not
does-
huge, but
But how does that do in comparison to Skyward Sword? Because
that's a good question. I know Skyward Sword was low sales, but I can
It
tell you
was.
this: the highest Zelda number was the highest Zelda number before Breath of the Wild was Twilight Princess, and I believe that was around 6 million.
it was low, right? Still,
Yeah.
and it was on this downward trend. So I do think you're onto something with that, and I think it's kind of obvious, and I think it's actually really cool to see, and it really gives us something to look forward to with the potential of Metroid Prime 4. And they're obviously taking it seriously from taking it from Bandai Namco or whoever was developing it before.
Rumored,
getting it-
yeah, but there was no
But-
confirmation on that. But that's what the
But they're taking it seriously, and I think you're right. I think they're trying to resurrect, and not even resurrect Metroid, because there's a fan base there that will always buy Metroid.
they're trying to
myself
push it
included.
to the next level.
They are, yeah. I think you're right. And a Metroid, you guys have seen now, not having played the original Prime, you've seen, how it is a 10 out of 10 game, if not an 11 out of 10 game, especially the new remaster. Imagine a Breath of the Wild as Metroid Prime, dude. Like,
I mean,
oh my,
anything. I mean, well, and they that's the thing too. We got a glimpse of what it's going to be. We got a glimpse in
I just
Metroid
think-
Prime remake or remaster, whatever the hell they called it.
I just
But
think it's-
that's the engine that they built to make Metroid Prime 4.
I know.
That's what they did first. They worked on that to learn the engine, to figure it all out, to make it do what they wanted it to do. Imagine not having to go to source material. Imagine just being like, okay, these are the new assets. This is the new this. This is like, that's going to be wild. It's going to be wild.
I just think that it really, when we talk about Breath of the Wild-izing something, Breath of the Wild changed the Zelda formula foundationally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no dungeons in it.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Prime 4, I think we're looking at a game that historically Metroid emphasizes speedrunning and trying to see how quickly you can beat the game. And a lot of people have found ways to beat Prime quickly, but one of the ways that Prime kind of changed the series a little bit is that instead of really emphasizing speedrunning so much, they emphasized 100% completion with scanning and items and those kinds of things. And I wonder if with the Prime 4, if they just build out, like, if we're talking about Breath of the Wild-izing something, let's talk about for a second, like, what does that mean for Metroid Prime?
Okay, but let's not go here. Let's not go
sorry.
full of, no, you're good. I want to cut this off for a second because I want you to go there, but I don't want you to do this. I feel like when people say Breath of the Wild-izing something, not open world,
no,
just a reimagining of the series in a different way. Yeah,
massive. Okay. I think. So obviously, no, I don't mean open world, because I would actually say, so to kind of take an aside a little bit, and then I'll get back to my point. I am not one of those guys, and I don't think really any of us are, that equates open world to automatically making a game good. And Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are prime examples of that.
What do you mean they're perfect?
I actually think that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet would have been better if they were more linear and traditional. I do think that because they
I mean, that's fair. I haven't played it, but I mean,
better is subjective. You're right, because it's subjective, and your opinion counts.
When you constrain something to a box and you give it a framework with which to work in, you know what your limits are. And when you have sometimes open world is great for the games that can pull it off, but when you have open and everything's limitless, you kind of don't know where to go sometimes because you don't have any direction.
Well, and also a time frame which you have to have a game done in.
Right. So, but the point that I'm making though is no, I didn't want to go open world with Prime, because I don't think that would be good for Metroid, because Metroid doesn't really emphasize open world, but what it does emphasize is exploration within a structured place. But what they can do with a game like Prime 4 is change. I don't even know how they would do it, because I'm not a developer and I'm not smart. I'm just a guy, right? I just played these games. But dude, it just massive. Think about how massive you could make because Prime you can beat within a matter of a couple of hours if you're really good. So think about Metroid Prime and all the hours you've put into it. I put over 14 hours into that game before I beat it. Good players,
God, I'm like 15 and I'm like halfway through.
Good players can beat that game in like 3 hours, if not less, I think. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken. But the point being is think about a Metroid Prime game. So think about what you're playing now, where they don't emphasize so much speedrunning it to get Samus in a scantily clad uniform at the end when the credits roll. Think about a Metroid Prime game that just expands further upon exploration and maybe a little bit of customization, right? Where I almost think a little bit about the statue in Breath of the Wild, where you can get stamina or life, where maybe there's a little bit of options to what you can do to Samus, right?
Yeah,
or
like customization, yeah.
Choices.
Choices. Like you can have this, but you could have this. But if you get this, you can't have that.
Right. Did you guys ever play Cave Story? Cave Story kind of highlights exactly what I'm thinking. So I'm going to speak a little bit. Cave Story is fantastic. And if you guys are into like action platform type shooters, like I would highly recommend it. It's kind of a Metroidvania. Very, very good. But like the choices you make in that game affect the outcome of the game. So if you pick, like there are branches in the game where, and it's just a side scrolling shooter, but it's incredible. It's a really good game with a fantastic story. But if you pick a certain weapon at a given point in the game, it changes the weapons that you can actually get later. Like it actually changes the direction of the rest of the game. And so I almost imagine Prime 4 maybe doing something like that. Like, I'm just spitballing here, but like, I think Prime 4 could follow the formula to a T and just make everything Metroid bigger and better, which would be great. I'm down for that. But I almost think, like you're saying, I'll circle back to your point, because that's actually what I'm trying to do. I think you're right. I think they're trying to bolster it. They're trying to bring it up. They're trying to elevate Metroid. And I think you do that by reinvigorating the formula, changing it up, customization, exploration, stuff we've never seen before. And that's kind of what I'm driving at.
That's kind of where they're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen them do it. Like Breath of the Wild is a prime example. That's an easy one. But I mean, even you could argue, people would disagree, but I mean, what they did with Mario Odyssey, it's the same type of Mario game, but it's just better. It's just better. Like that's not the best example, but I mean, they did the same thing with Odyssey. It's just the next level. They did a really good job with it. Zelda, I mean, they pulled Zelda out of the gutter.
Yes.
And took a huge chance, because that could have failed. That could have killed everyone who loved Zelda. Like, oh, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. This is not the game I was looking for. It worked. And it looks like they're bringing some of the stuff from old Zelda games back into this one. I don't know if we're getting full dungeons, but it looks like it's a possibility.
I think
there's a bunch of weird cave openings and weird I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. There's going to
be so much crazy stuff in that game.
I don't think there's going to be
there's not dungeons. There's not.
There might be. I'm holding out hope.
In Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah.
No, there's not dungeons. There's not. I'll call it right. I'll put money on it. There's no dungeons.
There are dungeons. Tyson, one last thing. We need to end this podcast.
Fair enough.
Go ahead and finish your. I want you to finish your thought, Tyson.
I wanted to just kind of circle back to the point, but it's okay. I actually lost my train of thought. But there was Drip made a really good point that I wanted to circle back, because I wanted to really emphasize what he was saying. But I don't even remember what I was gonna say. I just completely brain farted it. So
I'm sorry. That's me.
No, it's me.
The
dude.
ADHD.
It's not you. Yeah. It's not. Let's
I
blame
go 100
Geeb.
Different ways all the time.
Yeah,
it's actually Geeb's fault because he's so drunk.
That's right. Guys, I'm actually going to include this after show into the main episode. I'm basically gonna call it what I call it. I'm gonna say I'm gonna call it all these same ideas original, but I'm gonna add to the end of it extended after show with Drip. So like they're just getting this is an extended Drip and G podcast this week. So because there was just way too much that I can't have live just on the YouTube.
Next time I'm not on the podcast, I can't watch. Because the whole time I'm like, okay, no, I have to say no. I'm sorry.
But guys, thank you all for listening. Thank you guys for watching the stream as well. We're going to end both right now at the same time. So thank you guys. Thank you, Tyson.
Thanks,
one more time. Make sure to check Tyson's link down below.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you
if you haven't already.
My pleasure, guys.
Drip, you weren't here from the beginning, but you're here at the end. That's what counts. Thank you for that.
You showed up.
And thank you, Tyson, for being here.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys next time.